Yo, 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 yo. What's up, all you burner stoners and potheads? This is Weedman 420 with the Weedman 420 Chronicles. How are all you vipers doing out there? Mrs. Weedman.
Mr. Weedman.
How the hell are you?
I'm hanging in there this week.
You feeling better?
I'm getting there. A little under the weather.
There you
but
go.
I'm all right.
Hey, all you vipers out there. Hopefully you're smoking some big fat doinks while you're listening to the show, and we're about to get normal. And we had a great weekend, but before we talk about it, I want to say thank you to the two growers, gardeners, who gave us this joint. And I'd like to thank Ralph Wiley and the two growers that gave it to us. And they gave us a strain called LA Wedding Pop, which is wedding cake times Triangle Kush BX2, and it's bred by Seed Junkie, but grown by Ralph Wiley. And just in case you don't know who Ralph Wiley is,
Not the Ralph Wiley we got this joint from, but the real Ralph.
Ralph Wiley. Ralph Wiley is a character played in the 1936 Reefer Madness film. Ta-da! Reefer Madness film. And he was the college student, the main plug in Reefer Madness, and his name was Ralph Wiley, and who turned into a dangerous criminal because of his pot habit. So says the movie Reefer Madness, and it suggested that the drug causes him to attempt to rape and kill anyone in his path.
Oh, that always happens when I smoke.
Always. Until he eventually is thrown into a mental asylum.
Jeez.
Such propaganda of the 1936
Yeah. Oh, you want some?
film. Oh, I'd love some Ralph Wiley. Their grow is fantastic. We smoked another.
I like how they roll their joints too. Their pre-rolls, when they sell them, are unfiltered, like a traditional. It's a leaf wrap, not paper, right? But it's like the size of a cigarette and real tight like a cigarette. They smoke really nice.
Is wonderful. Again, we smoked another one from him last week. Mrs. Weedman, he gave us one. We smoked it. Very sensual, very flavorful, very euphoric. This one I have not smoked.
So did I look extra pretty that day when you smoked it?
I wanted to jump your bones.
Well, we don't have to. That was my fault. I opened the door to that.
You did.
I do know better by now.
I'm
Oh my God.
So I'm very excited about this strain because they are phenomenal growers. Check them out on their Instagram at Ralph Wiley. You will see their grow op. You will see how they grow. You will see their beautiful plants. This tastes absolutely phenomenal. So Ralph Wiley, thank you for the joint.
Thank you guys. It's good stuff.
And we've gotten to know them at a lot of the events we've been to, and I will have to say they are OG growers, ocean-grown growers. They've been doing it for a long time. And they're local boys, which I love. Local. You can't have anything better. So thank you for donating to the cause, and we appreciate you both. And yeah, we had such a fun-filled weekend.
Yeah, but if you really think about it, it could even have been more fun because we only went to 2 events. There were events all over, not even just the city, suburbs, very remote area. There were events just popping all over the
from
place.
From Friday to Sunday.
All over.
And I wish we can clone ourselves to be able to set up more 8 Decades Weedman 420 Chronicles tables and little vendor booths. And I wish we could because we missed out on some other events, and I would like to make it to all of them.
Yeah, and I'd also love to hear from our listeners if you're experiencing events in your states too. If you're in the status of being recreationally legal or medically legal, what's going on there? You know, we see things through social media, but Mr. Weedman and I have been talking
clubs,
recently that
events.
It has just in the last maybe since November, ramping up to the holidays, it just has unfolded. People have just kind of segued off and started their own thing. There are just events going on all over. There used to be 1 or 2 people. It just has happened so fast. It's just building and building. So I'd love to hear if it's going on in other states too.
And reach out to
which I'm sure it is.
Mrs. Weedman at 8 Decades.
Yeah. 8decadesinfo@gmail.com.
Or
tell me
at
all about
8 Decades on her Instagram and DM her too. So yeah, we like to
and
hear.
if there's events that you want us to share and talk about, we'd love to talk about events outside of our market.
And if we're open like on that weekend and you want us to come,
If
and
it's close by and we can get to it.
if we can get to it in a few hours, even if it's an overnight trip, I would love to participate in other events as long as Yuki's invited and Mrs. Weedman and I can have a lot of fun. We are all good. So invite us, please. We would like to experience other states and other events instead of our little table and our experience that we give. But so let's talk about the first one.
Yeah.
The Illinois Hash Rosin Competition.
Just the Illinois Rosin Competition.
I know, but I'm calling it. And it was in the South Side. I don't know if it was the first ever one in Illinois, but I know it was the first one that I've seen in the South Side.
I'm pretty confident it was the first. And this is traditional market. This is not commercial. This is not dispensary. It is what it is, right?
It's amazing.
It's amazing.
It's underground,
Yeah.
fun. It puts the fun back into cannabis. It puts the fun back into hash. It puts the fun back into everything. And I mean, I like to first say Bob Exotics and
Prairie. I just forgot the name. Prairie Grass. I'm gonna get it.
I get it. Okay.
I totally forgot.
But also Blue Island Beer Company.
Yep.
For hosting us. And I will tell you,
Prairie Grass Selections.
there you go. Prairie Grass
and Bob's
Selections.
Exotics
Bob's
organized the event.
Unbelievably well done.
I got it.
250, 300 people. Vendors of all over the place. Hash vendors, cannabis vendors, accessory vendors.
The doors opened at 5:00 and the place was instantaneously full.
Jammed. Yes.
People were waiting to get in.
Yes.
It was and such a pleasant crowd as always. And I posted on my recap of the weekend. I would love, we're all pushing, maybe not we all. Many people are pushing for cannabis consumption spaces. Maybe not everybody wants to socially consume. That's fine. But there's a lot of people who do, and there's a whole generation coming into the world of adulthood that doesn't drink. They are using cannabis, and they can't do it in safe spaces. Maybe there's such a wonderful element of socializing with cannabis, and it really is part of just the whole. What's so great about the plant? I don't. You can't think of pot and not think of socializing. There's just an aspect of it, a sharing, a giving. Mm-hmm. Yeah. So, I lost my train of thought.
That's okay. I got you. So
Thanks.
It was an amazing event. The vendors there were amazing. They also had a really good hash conference, a panel talking about the making of hash, talking about the little bit of the history of hash, how each one makes their hash, how their process of growing. Amazing. I don't want to name every vendor, but I just want to say every vendor there, hash, like I said, cannabis, accessory, you all are amazing at what you do. Your booths were amazing. Great. We've made so many good friends at these events now that I look forward to going there. I get excited.
It's like our community within the community.
Yeah, and I go around
all of our neighboring
before
vendors.
the show starts. I usually walk around with Mrs. Weedman's edibles now, and I hand each vendor if they would like to take the edge off a little bit before things get started and have an edible made by Mrs. Weedman. This time we were handing out chocolate-infused pretzels and chocolate-infused Twizzlers. 5 milligrams,
Basics.
Easy. Nothing that's going to kill you. And everybody loved them. They had a live podcast going on there, which was awesome. Patrick and Patrick. So awesome that they were interviewing all the hash makers and all the people who were
there were over 25 entries.
Yes.
So they were, I think, interviewing
all the hash makers. Which was great. The Jimi Hendrix cover band really
the
put
Hendrix
you
effect.
Yes, put you into that effect of being stoned. It brought you to like 1968, 69. It was amazing. So many people came to our booth to try the tray set out. Also to have me stuff a joint. Mrs. Weedman talking about 8 decades and talking about the history of why our name came to be, the 8 decades of cannabis prohibition. You do a great job at it now. I love it when I hear you talk about it. You got your
super edited elevator.
Yeah.
what is it called?
Pitch. Elevator pitch.
And then I have my like full on elevator pitch. They're pretty dialed in.
Pretty good. I trust me, I hear it. And I'm like, oh, she's got that down.
Yeah.
And I noticed it like 3 vendor fairs ago. You had it down. I was like, when we went a bunch of stoners. You had your pitch down. I was like, oh, she's good. She got it. She practiced some shit. So it was good.
That day it was like person after person telling me.
So, but also our neighbors to the left of us, our neighbors to the right of us, were awesome to talk with. We were all hanging out, helping each other out too, but waving to people across the bend. Just so much fun and so much love and so much community. And the weed is great. The hash is great. The beer was great. The laughs were amazing. Okay, Horseshack.
I know. I remember what I was getting to. Everything that you're saying.
I read your mind.
The vibe, everything. All of the people who aren't understanding the potential of a space like this to be readily available in communities would be overutilized, and it would be safe, and it would be really a nice thing, and so many people would love it, and people would pay for a membership to a space like that. I would gather people would pay to have a table or a seat, like a reservation within the space, and you have a certain amount of time at a booth. There's products that you could sell that are ancillary products to cannabis smoking. There's so much that you could sell and do and provide: live music, classes, informational advocacy about fucking cannabis. Man, it's just has to happen. I'm so passionate about it.
Did you get Ralph Wiley'd?
I got Wiley'd, man. I'm like
that drug
juiced.
dealer.
I feel like I'm crazy right now. Well, I also just took my steroid inhaler.
Miss Weedman's feeling a little under weather.
I'm fire right now. So if these frickin' officials would just come and just sit, just be a fly on the wall and experience this, I can't even imagine what they would be able to say to argue it. They'd have to get on board. Like,
just people are chilling,
people are
cool,
blazing left and right,
and having a good time.
There's not a single issue happening.
We met so many cool people I already know. There was some phenomenal hash also going around.
Yeah.
If you are a hash head, there was some really, really good hash. I'd also like to thank everybody who gave Mrs. Weedman and I some goodies.
Yeah.
Some joints to smoke. So everyone who gave us some joints for the show, Ralph Wiley was first. I have 4 others. So there'll be 4 other shows that you will be talked about, smoked about. So don't be upset. I don't smoke 4 joints in one show. It's just not what I do. You
look at me. I didn't even smoke one.
You are the donations of the show are, each one gets their own show, basically.
Yeah, but they're also setting the effect for the show.
Yes. Like, I mean, we did Midwest Terps last time. Thank you guys for the goodies. We love you. Appreciate you. But I mean, just all the joints that we get or buds we get, we will get to you. And we're super stoked that you donate to the cause. And we love throwing you shout outs and letting you know how good your weed gets us stoned.
Because that's what it's all about.
That's what it's all about in the end.
That's why we're all arguing about this plant.
It's even funnier because we do this show very baked, and your weed is helping experience the show with us. So we appreciate all you home growers
it's like
that
an
donate
out-of-body experience.
And all your traditional market and legacy growers out there. We appreciate you donating to the cause. We love you for it. And thanks for sponsoring the show with your weed. That was Saturday.
That's only one day.
That's only
we
one
still
day.
have to talk about the second
We got
day.
to see some great people on Saturday, too. I can mention names upon names upon names. I'm just going to say this, as they do with the Oscars. Thank you all. We love you. Now, next to Sunday. Sunday started with a beautiful morning. It was gorgeous outside. Like
warm, sunny,
wonderful.
Nice.
I'm going to put you all in the scene of this. Mrs. Weedman and I get up. We go for breakfast, for a birthday breakfast, right? Now, this is also working till we didn't get home and done till like midnight on Saturday. Slept, woke up, went to a family breakfast birthday party. Of course, we gave the birthday person
a lot of weed
for their birthday. So thank you everybody who donated to the cause. And then we had breakfast and we came home and we got our stuff ready, and we headed downtown in this beautiful drive of a beautiful day down Lakeshore Drive. And I will tell you this, I have never seen that lake so calm. I mean, that lake was glass. And
It
if
was
that
beautiful.
lake
And it was very,
if that
like,
lake was
greeny
68
blue.
degrees to
It was so
72
pretty.
degrees, that'd be perfect.
It looked like an ocean.
Perfect to like just go swimming in. I mean, you don't get that. There was no wind. It was just like we would say in Florida. It was like glass.
And for people who may not have ever been to the Chicago lakefront, like our city wraps around the lake. We have a beautiful skyline and
It's gorgeous.
and lakefront.
Right.
And there's a street that runs between the lake, literally the lake is 30 feet away to your right, and buildings or a park are on your left. There's not much in between. It's this 6-lane road. And it's windy. It's a fun drive.
It's a great drive.
It's just a great drive.
Yes.
And so Chicago, anytime, like if it's past December, like let's say it's January, February, March, any of those months,
You get over
any
55
day
degrees.
over 50 degrees, people strip. They're like in their shorts and a tank top, and they're running around. They're on the lake. Like this is like it's crazy. And so it was one of those.
There was
days.
people swimming in that lake.
There were people. The lakefront looked like
Was
a field
packed.
trip. It was just
Hundreds
like a sea
of people walking up and
walking
down.
walking
You
down
got
the
you
side.
put a video on. It was
yeah.
how many people?
That was not even a busy area.
No, how many people were walking up and down
Crazy.
Lakeshore Drive? The lakefront
Everybody was out.
and we were going all the way to what street did we get off of?
We got off at North Avenue.
North Avenue. Thank you. So we got to see a lot of that. So we got off at North Avenue Beach, and there was tons of people still walking up that way. What a lovely, beautiful day in the city to live your life.
Yeah.
At that moment, it was perfection. So then we went to first. Let me set the scene. We found parking.
Yeah, free parking.
Free
Street
parking on a
for free.
busy Sunday downtown
Yeah.
experience, because we were invited about a week ago by a friend of ours. She's been on the show, and the High Focus Media Group has been on our show. But Shayna invited us to where?
To Jungle K. So he's a social media influencer, fashion model, cannabis model. I think he does all sorts of things.
Cannabis advocacy.
Education.
I loved his when he used to wear the pharmacist jacket and
Yes,
go and
yes,
talk about
yes.
weed. That was a long time ago,
Yeah.
but
So
yeah.
he's evolving as his presence in the cannabis space, and so High Focus Media and Shayna, especially, I believe she's good friends with Jungle K.
Yep.
And so it was a party for Jungle K.
Yep.
And there were sponsors there. Legacy was there.
Some of our favorite people, Smoke Signals, Courtney, shout
Smoke
out.
Signals,
Toasty, shout out.
Yeah. Arise was there.
Yeah.
So there were some games.
There was games, there was giveaways.
ICBB.
Really?
Baby.
Oh, she was banging.
great.
So
Good
we
DJ.
got invited to by Shayna, and then Maddie too invited us, and then Jungle K too invited us because Shayna went to Jungle K, and Jungle K said yes, absolutely, because I went there with our briefcase travel set and stuffed joints for people.
Mm-hmm.
And I found a nice little wooden barrel, and I sat there, and people would come up, and we would just
Just
stuff
as
joints,
gifts.
just as
Yeah.
gifts for people, as just being a part of the party and part of the community and having fun and doing something that I like to do. Talking about cannabis, talking about weed, but also giving somebody a dog walker as a thank you for stopping by and saying hi and wanting to talk about weed and find out what we're doing here. And then taking a sticker or talking about our show or talking about 8 decades. And so they let us be a part of that experience with everybody, and it was very fun. We saw a lot of people we know, so it was great. And but Shayna, Maddie, Nicole, High Focus Media, who also just got in the reader, right? They just won best overall experience group, I guess, like bringing experience to communities of cannabis and having, I guess, the number one like group get-togethers, I guess. I don't know.
Like
I'm trying
profesh
to.
sesh.
Yes. So just like just put it this way, bringing the community together as a whole. Congratulations on that, and then congratulations, Jungle K, on your birthday, and thank you for a successful event and letting us be a part of it. I love the bartender behind us. He was calling me, "Hey, weed man," the whole time, and I'd hand him a joint. I'd hand him a joint, or I'd hand him a nug, and he was laughing, so he was funny. And then we got to see our friend Javi, of course, and everybody else too.
Yeah.
Everybody
It was
else.
fun.
Yes, so it was great.
time.
So thank you for inviting us. Thank you for having such a gracious heart to include Mrs. Weedman and I. It humbles me a lot. So thank you for a fun-filled, exciting weekend. And where are we going to be next Sunday, March 3rd?
We are going to be back at Blue Island Beer Company for a comedy show, and I'm failing to remember the name, but it's a puppet comedian, and he's like satire or
And
like
it's about,
super
and
dry.
he talks
humor.
cannabis too.
Yeah,
right?
yeah, something. And then there's going to be Grit and the Double Knit,
Oh,
Mr. G, who's
Mr.
been on the
G.
show. His band will be
Salute.
playing, and some other musicians as well. So that's going to be super fun.
And that
So,
starts at 3, I think, or 4, and goes to 7. 4 to 7.
Yeah.
So we'll get there. They asked us to come and we'll have a booth. So when you come and I'll roll you a joint. If you come and see me, I'll stuff you a joint. And if you give us a follow and a hug, get a joint. So come see us there. We have so much going on the next 2 months, but so just every week we'll let you know where we're going to be at. So yeah, we got a lot going on. So, Mrs. Weedman,
Mr. Weedman.
before we say you're ready to get the show started, you got anything else to say about the last couple of days? Anything we didn't talk or mention?
Yeah, I feel like there is something.
Did we mention any? Did we forget it? If we forgot you, we love you.
Oh, we forgot people, I'm sure.
I'm just saying,
I mean,
if we forgot
we
you,
obviously didn't name everybody, but we saw.
if we forgot
yeah,
you, we love
please, we know that you were there.
you. You mean something
we
to
remember
us.
those conversations.
Yes.
Even if we don't remember them, we do remember them.
Yes.
You know how that goes.
There was a super. We got the whole
super
super
ooby
duper
dooby
ooby
doobie
doobie
doobie.
noobie joint, 7 gram
Yeah.
with
One of
keef
our-
and distillate wrapped around it. Oh man, there's so much we could talk about and experience wise.
God.
Come see us at the next thing, and we'll tell you all about it. All right, we're 21 minutes in already and all we talked
Okay.
about was the weekend.
Okay.
I don't care. I think it's great. I love it. I love these events. They do this old man's heart good to see it. To see people just the experience of it all, and seeing people that have never been to one before too is amazing too. So I love it. I love it. Thank you all for being at all these events that are being, whether we're there or not, supporting the cannabis front, supporting people of business, small business owners, mom and pop shops, people who are trying to bring this plant into more light, trying to bring this plant into just people's hearts, to try to just show that this plant is more, and it means more to most people on this planet than politicians and people who have been against it for so long really truly know. I guess if that makes any sense. So we love you all out there. Keep on fighting the good fight. Keep on throwing these events. Keep on doing what you're doing to free the plant, stop the stigma, educate, and free anybody that's in jail for cannabis, because no one should be in jail for cannabis. So
Last Prisoner Project got an award in the Reader too.
Oh, they did. There you
did.
go. And we have good relationship with Last
Yeah.
Prisoner Project. So, and all who have won or participated in the Reader, congratulations. Yes. So we love you. If we didn't mention you, we love you. You're in our hearts. So, ready to get the show started?
I'm ready.
Let's do this.
All right.
Since we were at a rosin hash competition, is vape, and there was people selling vape rosins, hash rosin cartridges, where we were at. Is that the next big thing in the form of cannabis consumption? So there is a demand for rosin right now, but there was also a decline though from 2021 to 2023 by between 9 and 8% to 6.1% of that year, of those years. There was a drop. There was.
I can just tell you're really high.
No.
No?
It dropped. It was 377 million. It
No,
dropped.
I'm following you. I just think you're
It dropped
high.
to two. I am high, of course. I just smoked Ralph Wiley's weed to 276 million in 2023. So it dropped from a market share of 9.8 to 6.1. All right. So, but high consumer demand for rosin is now on the rise. We just saw it. There's people now getting into hash like never before. I had Turk Fiend on the show, the last episode of the Grow Hour, the Roundtable, talking, him and Wolfman talking about hash, and the demand for it, and seeing a rise in it, and that's maybe don't forget, this is data that is for legal, like basically dispensary cannabis. Okay, we're not talking about the underground. We're not talking about traditional market and legacy makers. We don't even know that data. Okay, so maybe their data
in the
dispensary
legal
world,
space.
cultivation
Right.
world is that, but it's still $276 million. That's a lot of money. But think about how many hash makers do it at home now. Because everyone's learning how to do it. And if you haven't watched the third episode, there's 3 episodes now on the Grow Hour. The first one was with Wolfman on the history of hash and kind of how to make hash and all about hash. Second one was he showed us how to press. Phenomenal hour and 30-minute episode if you really want to learn how to do it. And then we just had a roundtable discussion about hash with Terp Fiend and Wolfman to end the three-part series. So, but we are talking about the demand for rosin in that episode too, and how much it's grown and what people are doing and where it's come from. So mainstream rosin consumption methods, we talked about that. We asked them like, hey, how do you like to smoke your dabs? So, but there is rigs. We have a rig. We don't use it that much anymore because we got an electronic rig. That's very easy. There's hash heads out there that will probably throw that thing out. They like a traditional rig, which is fine. To each his own. But it all, man, I love it. It's easy. Press a button on my phone, I'm done. There's gummies now, hash rosin gummies, which are phenomenal. If you haven't tried a hash rosin gummy versus a distillate gummy, go try yourself a hash rosin gummy. Here's what I'm going to sing to you. Whole new world. Right, Mrs. Weedman?
Oh, yeah.
Big difference.
The curtain's open.
Oh, yeah. Oh,
yeah.
I explained on a few episodes ago the difference between distillate and hash. So then there's disposable dab pens. The 2-in-1 disposable now that we're seeing,
Don't fill the world with a bunch of batteries.
Right. Please don't. I was on Reddit and someone had a bag of cartridges that they had smoked, and it was in a very large plastic bag. And the person goes, what do I do with these? Mm-hmm. It's a shame. Mm-hmm. There should be some kind of recycling program where you get or a
disposal program where they can take care of this garbage.
Here's the perfect way to do it. You bring all those back to a dispensary that knows a cultivator that can clean them, repurpose them. You give them 10% off their. You bring a bag of cartridges to our store, you get 10% off your bill.
Yeah, it'll cost the dispensary too much because they've got to employ people to take care of that then.
No, they just collect them and put them in a bag, and then when a cultivator comes and picks them up, they pick them up and they repurpose them. Why not?
Someone has to pay for them to be repurposed.
Of course.
And that's why people won't do it.
But you're still buying them from overseas.
I know.
You're buying
I get it.
Millions.
It's just not...
Dabbing, the dominant rosin consumption method. We just talked about it. The rigs, the torch... all the different electronic devices you're seeing now to do hash at. Here's what you do. You scoop a little bit and you put it on in, and then you light it up. Or you light it up first with a torch and then you put it on in. With the electronics, though, you put it on in with a scoop and then you hit the button. And it...
With a rig, it has to be hot first, right?
No.
No?
There's cold rigging, too, where you could put the dab in cold and you heat it up. There's people that like it that way. So it's easier for them to be able to gauge it. Yes. Okay. So vaping. This is the new. We saw it this weekend. So it's the new way to actually travel with rosin if you don't want to bring your rig. If you're on the road and you don't want to carry your rig with you and you like hash that much or rosin that much, you now have an option to do it. Gummies. Yummy, yummy, yummy. So how is the ideal rosin consuming product like? So rosin tech to the marijuana community, cannabis enthusiasts and businesses alike have been striving for a better way to consume rosin. However, there's still much debate surrounding the current method of rosin consumption. While gummies offer safety and deliciousness, their effects are slow and their potency is mild. Very true. I do have to admit that. So you have to take a little bit more. I've noticed that in my last few years of eating hash rosin gummies. Smoking while convenient can sometimes damage some of the precious terpenes and natural flavors of live rosin, depending on how you heat it. We usually keep ours on a very low temp because we want to preserve those terpenes and that flavor. Dabbing and vaping both have their advantages and disadvantages, with dabbing representing high-quality rosin vaporization, but requiring a series of complex operations and accessories, while vaping is convenient, portable, and affordable, but struggles to maintain excellent flavor and stable due to vaporization technology challenges. We talked about that yesterday, trying one. The high was there, but the taste wasn't quite there. Mm-hmm. So I'm sure it'll get better in time. Just don't add flavoring, please.
That's the worst.
That's the worst. So there is a big future for it. It's going to grow. It'll be an easy dab to go, on the road. and you're off, and now you got it in your hand. Depends on the heat, the coil, and how they do it. You know, some of the ones we've tasted have been okay. Some I think they could be a little bit better, but
Could you imagine if they like made like a little, like a metered puck that was like a pressed little piece of concentrate, and then you had like a long pen that heated just at the tip, and you just drop this little hunk in there, and it was like an on-the-go device.
It'd be pretty cool. But there is hash devices like where you
Like
could put a dab in,
like just a little petite thing that.
There's plenty of those out there. Hash pens, they call them. You know, you can buy them. So, but still, you still have to clean it. It's still like,
Right.
you know, you just can't keep on adding it when you're on the road.
Yeah.
So the disposable vapes are so easy. That's what they're trying to say. It's just convenience. You know, full gram, half gram, kind of like distillate cartridges too. You know, that's why people like them. They're convenient. Our dogs. Doggity dogs.
Doggy dogs.
There's some good
We
treatment
will
though.
like jump in front of a car for our dogs, right?
Most people will.
Most people will. So now they're finding that cannabis might be a viable alternative treatment for dogs with common skin diseases. Cannabis appears to be a viable alternative. Researchers at the Federal University of Santa Catarina in Brazil published their findings in the journal Frontiers in Veterinary Science this month, detailing the efficacy of full-spectrum CBD oil on a dog with the autoimmune disease discoid lupus erythematosus, or DLE. The condition, which causes hair loss and redness that can progress to lesions, is typically treated with corticosteroids and other medications that can put a strain on a dog's liver. That's what was happening with the 2-year-old canine at the center of this new study. A veterinarian prescribed a full-spectrum oil with 2-to-1 THC-CBD ratio, which was administered orally. At first, 1 drop per day for 3 days, and gradually increasing it until the optimal dose for symptom control was identified. Within a few weeks, the dog exhibited significant improvement in dermatological signs, accompanied by a concurrent improvement in liver function, the study says. Interestingly, the owner reported an improvement in the dog's behavior shortly after discontinuing prednisolone and within the first day of receiving the cannabis oil. Cannabis derivatives, beyond their pain-relieving prowess, are emerging as a potential knight in shining armor against inflammation and immune system overwork in the veterinary world, the discussion section says. Unlike traditional drugs, these compounds dance with the body's own endocannabinoid system, a master conductor of cellular harmony, homeostasis, and diverse functions. They added that a key benefit of using cannabis over corticosteroids is that the latter is limited to short-term use. In contrast, cannabis products lack significant side effects and are safe for long-term usage. Throughout the treatment period, the dogs exhibited robust overall well-being, maintained an active and playful disposition, and experienced a stabilization of its dermatological signs, they said. This offers initial indications that cannabinoids could potentially serve as a viable and health-conscious alternative to extended therapeutic approaches for DLE in dogs. The case study concludes, while noting that additional research is needed to identify optimal dosing and assess long-term efficacy. While the song of cannabis therapy for DLE in dogs holds immense promise, we must continue listening closely, gathering more evidence and refining the tune, the researchers said. This case report adds its verse to the growing chorus, paving the way for future research and potentially offering a new rhythm of hope and a haven from the long-term reign of corticosteroids for dogs battling this challenging disease. Meanwhile, another study that was published last month found that dogs that receive daily doses of CBD see significant reductions in stress and anxiety related to car travel. Other studies have demonstrated benefits of CBD, such as reduced frequency of seizures among dogs who receive the cannabinoid. Also, a study published in 2018 found that dogs with arthritis see improvements with CBD treatment. Last August, the U.S. Department of Agriculture found that cows that are fed hemp seed cake retain very low concentrations of THC and CBD in their bodies, indicating that meat products from the hemp-fed cattle are safe for human consumption. Another federally funded study published in 2022 found that feeding cows hemp reduces their stress, Researchers have also looked into how CBD affects stress and pain in horses. The FDA sent warning letters to a series of businesses marketing CBD products for animals in 2022, cautioning that there's a lack of data on what levels of potential residues are safe for a person consuming the foods that come from these CBD-treated animals. Meanwhile, late last year, the governor of New York vetoed a pair of bills that would have allowed hemp seeds to be included in animal feed for pets, horses, and camelids, such as llamas and alpacas, citing a lack of information about the safety of such uses, which she wants the state to expedite their studies on. So, interesting. I mean, it can't be any worse than the frickin' food that they give to mass production beef farm animals.
Brutal. I mean,
and cows and chicken, they're all eating crap anyway.
Yeah, the natural
if anything,
is better.
It's probably better for them.
Oh, yeah, 100%. So good for our fun-loving dogs.
And doggies.
Yep.
Yeah.
Speaking of reefer madness, reflections on that of the ancient plant continues to offer. Our interactions with cannabis plant go back to ancient times and cultures all around the world. The plant has been used since antiquity for its many industrial, medicinal, and spiritual benefits. Those benefits, curtailed in the 1930s, are once again becoming available in the United States and abroad. A growing body of practitioners, researchers, and most importantly, patients can now access the plant. So, this is the writer. As a registered cannabis practitioner in New York since 2016, when the use of medical cannabis was legalized in the state, I'm constantly trying to make sense of why a plant with its history, whose many benefits to patients I see daily, remains classified as a DA Schedule I narcotic, along with drugs like heroin and quaaludes. Hemp and cannabis, nearly identical plant, were well known and cultivated in the United States from the time the Prussians brought them over in 1645. Its fiber was used to make the first American flag, and the Declaration of Independence was written on the hemp parchment. Cannabis sativa was a patented medicine used commonly in the United States in the 1800s and onto the 20th century. It was listed in the United States as pharmacopoeia from 1850 until 1937, when a combination of E.I. DuPont Company, William Randolph Hearst, Harry Anslinger, but I call him Asslinger, of a newly formed Department of Justice, and the film Reefer Madness conspired to turn cannabis into marijuana. Using the word allowed them to demonize its associated with people of color and a limit of curtails in the cultivation and use. Of course, anyone who's ever listened to Fat Waller's You're a Viper, we play it on the show every year, thanks Mr. G, the Reefer song, or watch Cab Calloway's righteous rendition of The Reefer Man on YouTube, knows how they only forced it underground. I had a patient from South Carolina, Low County, who talked about growing up with a mother and aunts who, every fall, would harvest a certain plant in the fields and spend days cooking up what they called rabbit stew. She realized much later that the basis of the concoction, which was used for healing and spiritual purposes, was the cannabis sativa growing in the wild. Yes, it was. Despite its long history as medicine, it was only in 1964 that THC was discovered to be a major active ingredient, cannabinoid, in the plant. Where did I go here? In the plant. Morphine, the active ingredient opium poppy, was discovered in 1806. 30 years after THC was isolated, the scientists showed that we make our own endocannabinoids and that we have an endocannabinoid system, an ECS. A vast network of transmitters and receptors that are distributed extensively throughout our bodies and brains. The ECS is stimulated when we ingest THC or CBD or any other cannabinoid that contained in the plant. Our interactions with the plant go back to antiquity, and the ECS appears to be phylogenetically ancient. Oh man, I butchered the hell out of that word. Phylogenetic. I'm just going to spell it out for y'all. PhyloGenetically, ancient. Meaning it's found in mammals, birds, amphibious, fish, and even the most primitive animal with a nerve network, the hydra. The world's oldest known pharmacopoeia, the Pen Sao Ching, the herbal written over 5,000 years ago in China, talks about using the C sativa to alleviate an array of conditions, including intestinal constipation and arthritis. And it is believed that God commanded the priests of the first temple in Jerusalem to be anointed with the oil made of cannabism, evidence for the belief that was recently given more credibility when the residue of the cannabis along with frankincense was found in ancient temple in Negev. It's also been speculated by Carl Sagan and others that because of its multitude of beneficial properties, the plant brought us from being under hunter-gatherers to living in an agrarian society. To be able to make use of all of it has to offer seeds and leaves for food, stalks for clothing, sails and rope, the followers for the medicinal and spiritual properties. One must sow those seeds, cultivate the shoots, and harvest the mature plant. It seems quite possible that our ancestors recognized that to utilize the whole plant. They had to put down roots, as it were. Community cultivation of cannabis may well have curtailed their roaming of the ancient plains, and steeps as groups began a society around the plant, just like we see today. Firmly established in one stable location, we see communities now again. We see people forming tribes. We see people gathering socially around this plant again. And out in public now. Before it was hidden underground, but now we're seeing it, and just like we saw this weekend. After 1937, cannabis remained illegal until an abundant use in the late 60s erupted in the face of Richard M. Nixon. Nixon, who supposedly called it roofer, made it a Schedule I narcotic under the mandate of a newly established DEA. Being listed under Schedule I meant it was considered a substance with no currently accepted medical use at a high potential for abuse. Many believe Nixon's putting it there was so purposely to prosecute the vast array of people using it, people of color, hippies, and political troublemakers whom he feared and despised. They'd be busted, taken off the streets, and thrown into prison. Purposefully or not, it had the desired effect, and we are now struggling with pulling ourselves out of the self-created disaster for so many of our mostly brown and black fellow citizens. And because of the persistence of the Schedule I classification, patients can't be reimbursed for medical consults or for purchasing cannabis from legal dispensaries. Research into benefits and liabilities is restricted, and veterans with many issues like PTSD, chronic pain, and anxiety aren't able to get the use through their VA hospitals. And also, we still can't even go socially to smoke it anywhere. We still have to smoke it in our basements. We still have to smoke it in our homes. We still have to go behind the alley and smoke. I don't give a fuck anymore. I just light up right a minute and I walk out the door. But it's the point. You still get looks, So because of the experience over the past 9 years, this writer has spent much of the time to educate colleagues, informing the public so more deserving patients can have access to the plant, and working with legislators to get cannabis removed from the Schedule I status, a place it should have never been on. And every day I hear from patients and families, this has been a game changer. I wish I would have known about this years ago. We hear that a lot too. Mom's quality of life has improved dramatically. She's actually interacting with us so much more. There are patients this writer treats with disease such as chronic pain, seizures, neuropathy, autoimmune conditions, and increasingly in the last few years, dementia. I'm now in the 5th decade as a physician. I feel that, so it's not a young doctor at all. 50 years as being a doctor, right? And I feel that being deeply involved in the world of medical cannabis has been the most gratifying and intellectually provocative time in my career. I look forward to many more such patient encounters and their responses, and I hope before the next election, the DA will finally come to its senses and just deschedule this cannabis plant entirely. Mm-hmm. Pretty good. Mm-hmm. Kenneth R. Weinberg, MD.
Nice.
This is going to be a little bit controversial.
Yeah.
We've talked about this before in some episodes.
Yep. But
this is going to be a little controversial for us to talk about. This is not our article. This is not our writing.
It's not our opinion.
It's not our opinion.
This is an article.
Right.
Just like everything else that we're presenting. So it's controversial.
Yes.
The truth about weed and pregnancy. And I just say controversial because there are proponents and there are people very strongly against it, just like many things. Well, here we go. Interest in cannabis is at an all-time high, with stigmas breaking down in recent years. Pregnant people have taken notice. Studies have indicated that weed and pregnancy is becoming more prevalent, and more are choosing the plant over traditional doctor-prescribed options. However, the verdict on risk of consuming during gestation is still out. Still, many pregnant people turn to cannabis for nausea, stress, insomnia, acid reflux, and pain. There is growing research available on weed and pregnancy, though nothing definitive. Because of this, it is a toss-up whether a prenatal doctor or midwife would support cannabis consumption during gestation. Support or not, people are consuming while pregnant. Artist and consultant Alexa Jess is currently pregnant with her first child. She consumes intuitively, based on stress, anxiety, and discomfort, which equates to a few times a month, shifting out of smoking into a low-dose CBD-rich edible in her later months of pregnancy. She said, "For my body and my babies, I feel much more comfortable consuming cannabis versus pharmaceuticals, and I don't feel there's a risk with the low amounts I'm consuming," she shared. "If anything, I'm benefiting my body and my baby by getting more restful sleep, reducing my cortisol levels naturally, plus I'm getting all of the beneficial compounds contained in the plant." Just makes a valid point. A stressed pregnancy negatively impacts a growing baby. Intense stress can lead to high blood pressure, which increases the chances of preterm labor and low birth weight. While many parents are speaking out about safely using cannabinoid products while pregnant, most doctors recommend steering patients away from the plant for other options. Dr. Christine Greaves, an obstetrician, gynecologist, and expert contributor to Drug Watch, acknowledged the increase in cannabis use among pregnant patients, but doesn't necessarily recommend it. There is a need for more studies on this to make conclusions, but given that there is not much information on it, I recommend stopping cannabis during pregnancy in case there are long-term implications for the fetus, she said to Green State. There are stacks of studies on weed and pregnancy with varying results. Many who support cannabis for birthing parents often cite the same 1991 study from Jamaica as proof that it's safe. The long-form study checked in with 59 consuming mothers, 1, 3, and 30 days after the babies were born, and again at ages 4 and 5. The children's health was weighed against those with non-consuming mothers of a similar age and social status. And it turns out, the data showed no significant differences in newborns in each cohort. While the data is compelling, the study is now over 30 years old. Solid weed pregnancy data is slow to be collected because there's too much risk in testing drugs on pregnant women. While few researchers are apt to study humans, some data has been collected from pregnant rats, providing insight into exactly how cannabis impacts a fetus.
Well, first, can I say something? Phew. At least they're not doing drugs. Okay, first and foremost, they're not testing pregnant women with drugs. Cannabis isn't a drug.
Right.
2, how can you fucking compare a rat to a human?
Well, they do this. Okay. One such study showed that consuming high quantities of cannabis while pregnant can max out endocannabinoid receptors in the GI tract of the fetus. Ironically, the CB1 receptor was not one of those maxed out. This is an interesting find, but scientists require more research before understanding what it means for pre- and post-birth development. Another rodent study garnered sexed results. Male rats were given 3 to 30 milligrams of CBD powder daily while in gestation and developed a higher possibility for lower heart function in their first month of life. Based on the study, it's possible that ingesting CBD during pregnancy may alter fetal cardiac endocannabinoid systems. When it comes to human research on cannabis during pregnancy, most data is self-reported, through surveys or doctors' visits. The Norwegian mother and child cohort study gathered data about consumption from over 10,000 pregnant parents. Of these, 272 used cannabis while pregnant, with 63 continuing use into the second half of gestation. The study is relevant because it signaled that prolonged use of the plant may create more adverse birth outcomes like reduced birth weight. Low birth weight is one of the most cited risks of eating or inhaling weed while pregnant. With that in mind, some doctors remain against the topic, while others see openings for medical consumption. Doctors are forced to walk a fine line when adhering to the adage, do no harm. If the effects of taking a drug during pregnancy are unknown or show any possibility of impacting birth weight or causing early labor, they must be avoided at all costs. This sentiment was echoed when consulting various experts. Green State's own Dr. Lee Vinokur recently wrote in a column, As a physician who also recommends cannabis for her patients, I still feel we are not at that level yet with medical cannabis science and its disease indications. We don't have all of the clinical research we need yet to deem cannabis a critical therapeutic agent that pregnant medical patients need to take. Dr. Lee's recommendations follow those passed down in doctoral training programs, but the journey takes on complexities when a patient uses cannabis medicinally. For example, when taken during pregnancy, antidepressants have been shown to have negative birth side effects. Recommending switching over to this option from cannabis may not be better for the patient. Yeah, totally. Right? Neuroscientist and psychiatrist Dr. Dave Rabin explained more in a statement sent to Green State. He said, "We have to play a very careful risk versus benefit calculation when we work with our patients, and everybody's different. Some people don't respond well to cannabis, especially THC forms, and it can make them uncomfortable, it can make them nauseous. So that also has to be taken into account. But in general, we weigh out and calculate the risk of other medications that we'd be using to treat things like depression or nausea versus the risk of cannabis. This balancing act sometimes means trusting the patient's experience and intuition with cannabis over herding them to a pharmaceutical option with known side effects. Still, as legality spreads, more birthing parents are feeling comfortable speaking about their pregnancy experiences with the plant. However, in some locales, legal risk remains. Telling a doctor about cannabis consumption while pregnant could lead to involvement of child protective services in some states or with certain providers. Due to medical racism, the risk is higher for people of color. Drug tests are protocol for prenatal intake appointments. Testing positive for cannabis at the first appointment can shape care for the rest of for the rest of the pregnancy. That's ridiculous. Sometimes carrying over to birthing and postpartum care, but I get it. Not that I support that. I can totally see that happening, and it's pretty crappy. In prohibition states and some states where weed is legal, babies are also tested for drugs after birth. When a baby tests positive for cannabinoids, parents are sometimes reported to Child Protective Services. Because of these circumstances, many who may be interested in weed during pregnancy abstain completely or quit in the last trimester. Elizabeth Sage, certified ganjier and cannabis consultant at Sage Advice, Minneapolis, didn't consume cannabis until her third pregnancy at 41. At this point in her life, she worked in the cannabis space and felt supported by her community in her consumption. As a medical patient, Sage felt comfortable disclosing to her doctor, who shared that low birth weight was the biggest risk. I joked back that all of my babies have been big babies, so perhaps putting them on preemptive diet might be fortuitous. He laughed, and that's how I knew I could stay with my doctor, Sage recounted. The gut instinct that a care provider is on the same page is a blessing. Unfortunately, not everyone is lucky to have that. Cannabis journalist and managing editor for San Diego Mag, Jackie Bryant, opted out of consuming during her pregnancy last year. After a window of ramped-up consumption before getting pregnant, she chose to abstain until she was finished breastfeeding. "I'm on a break from weed. Trust me, nobody is more surprised than I am," Bryant announced in her award-winning newsletter, Cannabis. "It turns out I'm pregnant, and while I know plenty of women use cannabis in various ways while knocked up with no issue at all, I've decided not to." She wrote the statement without judgment against those who chose the other road and did experience setbacks that made her miss the plant, but ultimately she stuck to the fetus-induced tea break. However, she did comment to Green State that she lit up immediately after deciding to stop breastfeeding, and the consumption habits are back to her pre-baby levels, if not more. After all, gentle parenting and cannabis are a match made in heaven. Bryant's story highlights the key fact that the choice is one person's alone, the birthing parent. There's no proof that cannabis is safe to consume while pregnant, but the true risk is being slowly uncovered by research and anecdotal evidence. This mosaic of cannabis and pregnancy among mothers in the industry echoes the bigger picture. The choice to consume cannabis, antidepressants, or nothing during pregnancy is personal. It doesn't look the same for everyone. That goes for patients and doctors. Whether a birthing parent chooses to consume or not, it is vital to have a doctor, midwife, doula, partner, or care team that is supportive and non-judgmental. Remember, stress can be a negative impact on a baby. If a prenatal doctor doesn't feel right, explore other options. And if conscious cannabis consumption for relief does not feel right, find an open-minded doctor to speak to about it.
There's also other cannabinoids now too that should be researched.
Yeah, I don't know if
with CBG,
and CBD, CBN. I wonder if
there's
that's
so many
okay.
other cannabinoids that can help too, where you don't have to have such a high dose, and you don't have to smoke cannabis anymore. You can use edibles too, so you can take it in a different way. You can take tinctures, you can do bombs. Like, there's so many different ways now to consume all the different cannabinoids. So not just THC. There's so many good cannabinoids out there that can help mothers.
But that can be a little risky if you're getting your blood tested, because some of them can have THC in it.
I understand, but you can get straight tinctures now that are just straight CBG or straight CBC. So there is so much out there that can help your body with all the cannabinoids this great plant has. So it doesn't all have to be about THC. So we need to find out what these other cannabinoids can do for mothers. And like I've always said, it's about the whole plant. Mm-hmm. What about these terpenes that these plants
that are so
have
beneficial
in it? That are so beneficial that can help
adults,
mothers, for adults in general too. So there's so much more we need to learn, and not just only focus on the THC aspect of it all. We need to focus on this whole plant. And I guarantee there's so much that can help mothers and pregnant mothers and even fathers. Minnesota Republicans warn, this is pretty bad. Minnesota Republicans warn of blackouts and brownouts for marijuana cultivation energy use. Montana marijuana nets millions in sales and tax revenue. In 2023, Yellowstone did like 53 million in total sales. Gallatin 49 million. Missoula 39 million. Flathead 32 million. Lewis and Clark 21 million. In 2 years, the state has collected 999 million in almost 100 million. Little Montana. Well, not a little state, but population-wise, there's not a lot of people in Montana. It's a lot. They did 319 million in 2023. Montana, proud of you. Amazing. Connecticut cannabis sales decreased by 2.6 million in January, while retail prices went up, and they have no flower to sell. That's why prices went up. Short in supply. Go to your plug. He's got better prices anyway. Woo! New York expands cannabis market with 109 new licenses. Woo! Another 1,000 to go. Will the DEA finally abandon its flat earth cannabis policy? No, I don't think so. I think the DEA needs to just leave cannabis out of everything. You shouldn't even talk about it. It shouldn't even come out of your mouth. Trump versus Biden on President's Day. Cannabis legalization could play a big role as their ages. They're both very old, 81 and 79. They shouldn't even be running for president right now. Neither one of them. I'm sorry if you're voting. If you like Trump, I'm sorry if you like Biden. It don't matter to me. You shouldn't run for president after 65 years old. You have no clue what the younger generation truly wants.
It's just, yes, it's a matter of
You're
being
out of touch.
Just being in your prime. You want a healthy president. I think their health, mental and body health, is really important.
I want a good 45-year-old.
40, yeah, like I mean, we were in our prime. We're already over our prime.
We had Obama at 40. He was 45.
40s were great.
He was 45.
Yeah, that's a good time to be a president.
That's a great time to be a president. You're young,
experienced.
you're fresh. But did you see how old some of these younger presidents look after they're done?
Yeah, they look weathered.
Ooh, it's not an easy job.
Beats them up.
Don't forget, it's still a job. We put them in that office. They work for us, all of them. We forget that sometimes.
But mid-40s would be good.
Yes. Or 77. Trump is 77. Biden's 81. But here's my opinion. They both had their opportunities. And now they're going to use it this year because all fucking bets are off. The stakes are on, yada, yada, yada. Here's what I got to say. You both don't deserve to get in this office. You both should just be kicked to the curb, retired. Sorry, everybody. If you like them,
That's like age discrimination, Mr. Weedman.
I'm not saying because of their age. I'm saying because they're too motherfucking old.
That would be their age.
I didn't say their age.
They're showing signs of mental
fucking
deficit.
Get out of here.
Would you
I'm good.
smoke some of
I
this? Would
smoked
you?
some of it already. I'm good.
Gosh.
DC's
Smoke
weed
some
gifting
more.
goes legit. Delaware created its first batch of draft regulations for recreational market, slated to kick off in 2025. A recent polling showing Nebraska found 70% of adults consulted are ready to legalize medical marijuana statewide, and dozens of cannabis businesses want to transition from DC's gifting market to become legal. Yes, you should. Virginia marijuana bill seeks to launch sales May 2025, was approved by the House panel on last Thursday. Job Corps updated its marijuana drug testing policy so that testing positive on cannabis would not be a reason for automatic dismissal. It has been 3 years since the Jersey's police seized mass arrest for marijuana possession offenses. That's pretty good. Good for you, Jersey. 9 middle schoolers. Listen to this, Mrs. Weedman.
I'm
9 middle schoolers got into some edibles
Oh, shit.
and got really fucked up at school.
Oh, at school?
At school.
Oh, dang.
Says Michigan cops. Here's what I'm going to say. They were 12 to 15 years old. When you were like, maybe not you because you were a little goody girl when you were really young. You didn't want to get in trouble with your mom, right? When you got into high school years, you were a bad girl. But when you were younger, you were shy, right? Did you ever get in your parents' like liquor cabinet and drink all their booze?
No.
I did.
No.
I'd take sips of wine sometimes out of the bottles when they weren't home. I got drunk on some whiskey 2-3 times. I was a very bad boy. I was an altar boy. And before we go back to class, we would drink the wine. Yeah, we were bad.
Terrible.
So, but this is to be somewhat expected, okay? We all have gotten in our parents' liquor closet. I used to steal weed out of my dad's stash.
Yeah, this is not new.
This is not a
This
new
is not
thing. It's now being publicized more because it's legal in states.
So they want to point out negative aspects of the.
We've all gotten into the stash, somebody's stash. Okay, here's what I'm going to say. Parents, you need to lock your shit up. You need to lock your shit up. Same thing with your liquor.
And if you feel comfortable, talk to your kids about it. You know,
That should be first and foremost
but
now.
It's not for everybody.
Right.
Not everybody. You can't. There's no way that every family is going to educate their kids on alcohol first and foremost, or drugs, or weed. Right? It just doesn't happen.
Right.
There's a small percentage of people who do that. But if you are willing to talk about alcohol, if you're a parent who just openly talks to your kid about consuming alcohol, talk to them about weed. They probably already smoke it.
But the thing is,
at least if they're in high school.
I mean, I was
right?
13.
But this is not like a news story
Right.
at all. Everyone has a story or a sibling with a story.
So you just need to like
You
Mrs.
just have to
Weedman
be
said.
responsible with your stuff.
Right.
as
If
a
you don't want
parent.
to talk to your kids about it,
then have a stash page.
then have a
place.
lockbox.
Yeah.
Okay.
Yep.
What's the company here in Illinois? Not the company, but the state-run Crow that hands out the bags, the lock bags at every event.
Yes.
That's where we met.
The Illinois Cannabis Coalition.
Yes.
Yes.
Yes. We met them at many
Yes.
events.
At many events.
Yes. And I'm going to talk to you after the
Yeah,
show because
I
that's
know,
where
right.
you know what I'm talking about. We just
Yes.
both remembered. Boo-boo! We just both remembered who we met yesterday
Yes.
on Sunday.
Yes.
Yes.
Like trying to put a person to the
Yes.
company that they work with because you see them so frequently, but
Yes.
you're always working.
Right.
Yeah.
So
So we
now
just
we
figured
know.
that out.
Oh
Okay.
my gosh, it was driving me crazy the last
Well, if
couple
she's
days.
listening now,
Yeah.
she knows. Sorry. We just couldn't remember where you were.
Oh man. And it's been a hot minute since we've seen her, right?
No,
Yeah.
I think we had just seen her.
I hadn't seen her in a hot minute.
Okay.
So,
Oh my gosh.
anyway, First Citizens Bank, one of 20 largest banks in the U.S. with over $200 billion in assets, announced it's getting into the cannabis market. They're going to start popularly loaning, being a financial banking for the cannabis sector. That's nice. Medical marijuana testing. Mississippi revokes licenses of lab that covered 70% of the state's supply, raising patient access concerns. So that means like if it doesn't pass, they can't let it out of the market. So if there's that one lab that covered it, they're going to be short. Everyone's going to be sending it to like whatever labs are left. And it's going to take forever. Mississippi, come on now. Good old Mississippi. Let's go. So we'll see what happens there. Idaho, man, what is wrong with you? I enjoyed going to your state once. Beautiful. Beautiful. But how could you desecrate 420 like this? Desecrate, I tell you. They are, if you get caught, the minimum fine for possession is $420.
Come on. They badger the 420? Seriously? Who's the asshole who wrote
Idaho?
that rule?
Shame.
That's terrible. Any possession you get billed 420. It's like just shitty humor on some politicians'
I've been
part.
walking funny for a couple of days if you got that 420 fine. I'd be pissed.
Wow.
There's a congresswoman that says if we reschedule it to Schedule 3, it's going to set the full federal legalization back another 50 years because it's taken us 50 years to get it to this point where we're ready to vote on it or change the law, right? So since Nixon. Mm-hmm. So now you're going to set it back because if we ever get a chance trying to fight it to change again, it might take 20 years. Oh, we reschedule. You're done for a while,
right,
Cannabis.
Right,
We're going to work on something else. Right. We gave you your thing.
Yeah.
Shh.
Yeah. Just be happy with what you got.
Right. 100%. Mm-hmm. So what that means is this congresswoman, I got to find her name. Hold on here. Where is she here?
Yeah, we talk a lot about this whole...
Representative Barbara Lee, Democrat of California, told Marijuana Moment that she's opposed to moving marijuana from a Schedule 1 to 3, as the U.S. Department of Health and Human Services has recommended to the Drug Enforcement Administration, because it's going to set us back 50 years, because we already got this far, and this is the step. So, good for you, Miss Lee. Finally, someone's sticking up for us. Mm-hmm. Get more people on your side and fight for descheduling it altogether. Let people free the plant. Let people home grow up to 10 plants. Let people have this as it's ours. It's ours. We should be able to home grow. I've been saying it for 5 years on the show, but for a lot longer. Okay? People should be allowed to grow this plant in their backyard, in their house, be able to create it on a farm, whatever. That is the first step of what she said, descheduling it all together, get it off, and let this plant be free. Mrs. Weedman, you were going to say something?
Oh, I don't know.
Okay, fine. Now it's your turn. DA's 1975 admission that rescheduling cannabis does not violate international treaty.
Yep.
But here's the thing, and I'm not trying to steal your thunder. When the United States put cannabis on the Schedule 1, the WHO followed. And I'm not talking about the band WHO. I'm talking about the World Health Order. Put it on their list, and then the whole world followed. And this is why this struggle's been going on for so long globally, because the United States started it. It's our fault.
Yeah. So way back in 1975, this is behind the DEA's admission that rescheduling cannabis does not violate the international treaty. The buzz around the Drug Enforcement Administration's pending decision to potentially reclassify cannabis as a Schedule 3 drug under the Controlled Substance Act continues to invoke a storm of speculation throughout the industry. What would such a decision mean for industry oversight and enforcement, for taxes, for scientific research, for criminal justice, for normalization, and when will the DEA formally initiate a proposal with an actual rulemaking process? Legal experts, business executives, advocacy groups, and various stakeholders in general have continued weighing in on the myriad possibilities in the days, weeks, and months following news that broke in late August of 2023 that the U.S. Department of Health and Human Services recommended to the DEA that cannabis move from a Schedule 1 to Schedule 3 under the Controlled Substance Act. It took HHS officials 4.5 months to finally release the unredacted details of their review and recommendation, as obtained by attorney Matthew Zorn on Jan on January 12th, following multiple Freedom of Information Act requests and at least one lawsuit. The recommendation came after President Joe Biden directed in October of 2022 the HHS Secretary Xavier Becerra and Attorney General Merrick Garland to initiate an administrative process to review how cannabis is scheduled under federal law, a White House first. Should cannabis be reclassified as a Schedule III substance, it would be recognized as having federally accepted medical use. Also, it would break ties with high abuse substances like heroin, LSD, and ecstasy. But the DEA has final authority. Oh my God, I'm reading so weird right now. But the DEA has final authority in the executive branch over rescheduling drugs, and history has shown the federal agency has not been receptive to the idea that cannabis belongs anywhere other than the Schedule I list of controlled substances. As recently as 2018, former DEA Administrator Robert Patterson told U.S. House Judiciary members that the reason cannabis remains in Schedule I is because of the science. Notably, there have been 5 rescheduling petitions since 1972, all of which have been shut down by the DEA, including a pair of denials in 2016 to initiate proceedings to reschedule cannabis. These historical events should give caution to any industry players doing a victory dance before the cigars are officially lit on the Schedule III recommendation. But then that also points out the point you made earlier, that look, that's 1972. I was born in 1972.
Me too.
That's 52 years ago.
51 for me.
Well, you're a couple of months away. Don't get too excited. Relax there. So it took 52 years, and we are still not rescheduled. So that does make you wonder that if they do give us the Schedule III, then will it ever become federally legal? Because Schedule III is not going to change the difficulties of growing the market. It's just going to come with a whole different series of rules and regulations and fuck-ups.
And who can get in and who can play and who can't.
Who can play. And it's just going to continue the mess that's happening now. So anyway, none of the 5 rescheduling petitions, however, were initiated or directed by a U.S. president, which is a key differentiator to the current landscape under a Biden White House. But the historical significance of the DEA's inaction on the rescheduling front should not be overlooked. Under current DEA Administrator Ann Milgram, does the agency's former views on science still apply now that the federal agencies, the HHS and the Food and Drug Administration, have recognized the acceptable medical use of cannabis in the United States? This is another key differentiator between the past and the present. The HHS conducted an 8-factor scientific analysis and has formally made a rescheduling recommendation based on cannabis's medicinal value and lower risk for potential abuse. The past decade-long fight, including a 1975 admission by the DEA that rescheduling cannabis does not violate the International Drug Treaty. Rather, the DEA's refusal to reschedule cannabis a half-century ago was partially grounded in the fact that HHS's predecessor, the U.S. Department of Health, Education, and Welfare, never recognized the plant's medical value. After a series of cross-examinations in late 1987 and early 1988, oral arguments ensued. Based upon the rationale, the administrative law judge concludes that marijuana has a currently accepted medical use and treatment in the United States for spasticity resulting from multiple sclerosis and other causes. It would be unreasonable, arbitrary, and capricious to find otherwise.
Wow, that's a word right there.
According to the 1988 ruling, the facts set out above, uncontroverted by the DEA, established beyond question that some doctors in the United States accept marijuana as helpful in such treatment for such patients, according to the ruling. In other words, cannabis was recognized in the medical community and therefore met the standards of medicinal value. That was in 1988. Furthermore, it was ruled that cannabis, in its natural form, is one of the safest therapeutically active substances known to man, and that it would be unreasonable, arbitrary, and capricious for DEA to continue to stand between those sufferers and the benefits of this substance. Then, DEA Administrator John Lawn rejected the opinion of the DEA's administrative law judge and denied Normal's petition. The Associated Press reported December 30th of 1989.
Man.
Donald Beidler, Normal's national director at the time, told the AP that Lawn's rejection was arbitrary because it means doctors now have that tool available to use marijuana as medicine. Denying access to medicine to those who need it is hypocrisy in the worst sense. After Normal's appeal, the DEA's decision, succeeding DEA Administrator Robert Bonner relied on a 5-point test to assess whether cannabis had any medicinal value. The 5-point test was based somewhat on criteria Congress had used to decide if certain drugs should be rescheduled, according to the DEA. In March of 92, the DEA issued its official final order denying Normal's rescheduling petition under the opinion that cannabis has no accepted medical use. The Department of Justice wrote that with a little homework, one can learn that marijuana has been rejected as medicine by the American Medical Association, the National Multiple Sclerosis Society, the American Glaucoma Society, the American Academy of Ophthalmology, the American Cancer Society. Not one American health association accepts marijuana as medicine. And then, in February of 1994, the U.S. Court of Appeals for the District of Columbia issued its final decision, allowing the DEA's denial to stand. Normal filed a second rescheduling petition in 95. It was called the Coalition for Rescheduling Cannabis. They filed a third in 2002, and then again a fourth in 2009. And former Governor Lincoln Chafee, independent from Rhode Island, and Christine Gregoire, a Democrat from Washington, filed a fifth petition in 2011. The DEA denied each of those petitions, with its most recent ruling coming in 2016.
You did a really good job in that article because that was really long.
Yeah.
Like, it was exceptionally long. Way to cliff note the hell out of that.
Yeah.
Really nice job to get it down to the
I kind
bullet
of forgot
points.
what I was reading about a couple times.
Ralph Wiley.
Thanks, Ralph.
International
Wait, where am I?
news. The Bank of Guam offering new services to cannabis industries. Good. An estimate of 285,000 pounds has been recovered after a search of 3 flats in Aberdeen city center. And that sucks. That's a lot of weed being wasted. Jamaica. Okay. Do you know it's illegal to import, export cannabis out of the United States? Do you know that, right?
Yeah.
You can't even cross state
Yes.
lines.
Yes.
Jamaica company exports THC to the U.S. for analytical testing.
A company or Jamaica,
Jamaica
like the
company.
country,
A company in Jamaica, but a Jamaica company.
is able to send their cannabis across.
They exported THC to the U.S. for analytic testing.
Why is that okay?
That's what I'm saying.
Okay.
That's what I'm saying.
Is it like their government?
Good for Jamaica.
I know. I just don't understand why that's okay.
Still trying to figure it out. DA, it came over like as the DA is pondering rescheduling.
And what's the purpose?
I don't know.
We gotta find out more.
There's more, but we're running a little long. But it's just weird that they were allowed to do it. Good for them, but Jamaica did legalize the commercial export of cannabis for medicinal and scientific and therapeutic purposes in 2015. Although the government regulations for exporting medicinal marijuana products were not approved until 2021, Pure Jamaican plans to take advantage of this opportunity by legally exporting proprietary pharmaceutical products with the cannabis-derived THC, hemp-derived CBD, and other cannabinoids to the United States, Brazil, and other major markets around the world. So they're allowed to do it. But we're not. Foolish. Good for Jamaica, though. Read the 12 best documentaries.
Yeah, I'm not going to explain them all. You can look
Just
them up.
read what they are.
All right. I'm not going to tell you the whole article, but this is just some good ones. And we've had other lists of music and movies before about the best things to listen to and watch when you're stoned. But here's another person's perspective. Number 1 is Grass is Greener. This
Good.
came out in 2019.
So good.
Hosted by Fab Five Freddy.
Oh,
This documentary
so good.
features one of the most engaging timelines of cannabis history you will ever find.
It's great.
2, Vices, The Future of Weed, High Country, and Weedicate.
So good.
These aired on Vice between 2013 and 2017, and they offer a perspective on how far legalization has come in a very short time. Number 3 is Grass from 1999. The
Good.
decade-by-decade look at weed history is a reality check for anyone who was exposed to reefer madness, DARE programs, and other propaganda about the cannabis plant. 4, Super High Me, 2007. You know how the 2004 documentary Super Size Me stigmatized American fast food almost overnight? Well, Doug Benson took a similar approach with weed. His goal, to normalize cannabis use, no matter how excessive, and end the lazy stoner gateway drug nonsense that still lingers around. 5, The Culture High, 2014. This is for real stoner historians. 2 years before California allowed all adults to use cannabis, pot stars like Joe Rogan, Snoop Dogg, and Wiz Khalifa teamed up to dig into the underground lives of cannabis growers, sellers, and activists with the Culture High. 6, Dime bags to dispensaries, street dealers to multi-million-dollar weed startups, 2016. Whether they came from the corner or the corner office, Dime bags to dispensaries seeks to profile some of the most notorious and innovative trailblazers at the cutting edge of one of the world's most exciting industries. 7, Bong Appetit. This was in 2019. Awesome show on Bong Appetit. Viewers get to vibe out with celebs while they learn about cannabis and cooking. It's essentially a dinner party. 18, Breaking Habits, 2019. Picture this. A Wisconsin woman leaves a successful CEO role to join a sisterhood of nuns. If I'm ever alone in my later life, this is where you'll find me.
100%.
Old and gray and lonely. I'm going to go there. The nuns then invest in a CBD farm and become local legends. Breaking Habits gives a powerful lesson on how to call out hypocrisy while creating positivity in a way that even non-smokers will love. 9, Weed the People, 2018. This one puts the focus on medical patients who use cannabis to live normal lives. The documentary also touches on the looming threats of Big Pharma and Wall Street wolves planning to devour the industry, along with those who built it. 10, Rolling Papers, 2015, shines a light on how medical cannabis is used to treat sick kids, corporate scams to short consumers out of their THC and products, and much more. 11, The Profit, Marijuana Millions. Marijuana Millions, 2017. This special 2-part series shows Marcus Lemonis, traveling to California to meet the thousands of entrepreneurs chasing the green rush. 12, The Legend of 420,
Right
from
here.
2017.
Right here.
Is a more lighthearted film that chronicles the changing perceptions around cannabis during the early years of its legalization. So, take a watch.
That's a good list.
We've seen most of them.
Most of them, yeah.
I have not seen all of them.
I think I've seen like 8 out of the 12.
That's pretty good.
Yeah, not bad. Not bad. You ever wonder if Elvis, one of the biggest stars, still his estate brings in $50 million a year, but one of the biggest stars ever in the history of music. I mean, there's 5 you could probably list off the top of your hand that you could say, like Elvis, Michael Jackson, Prince, David Bowie, and the Beatles, let's just say, right?
Sure.
You would say those 5 would like changed
Internationally known, changed, yes.
Changed
The
their music,
musical
changed the world,
culture and, yeah.
right? You could probably throw Madonna as 6 in her early career. You know, she was huge, icon too. But I'm talking about those 5 to me, probably like had an impact, world renowned. There's probably a few more on that list, but that was my 5. But Elvis, though, you ever think he liked weed?
Oh, yeah. He liked all drugs.
He didn't like all drugs. He tried LSD. They looked at their fish tank the whole time. He was a pill popper, and we know that killed him. The heavy opioid drugs that he was devouring is probably what finally killed him. But he definitely he experimented with cannabis. He liked cannabis. It helped him when he started losing his eyesight for medicinal purpose with his eye trouble. Also liked to smoke it at times. And Priscilla liked doing edibles. Yeah. So he was not a daily user, but he enjoyed it a lot to help with medicinally. So if anybody ever wondered if Elvis liked weed, the king of rock and roll liked weed. So, so Mrs. Weedman.
Mr. Weedman.
That's the end of the show.
That's it.
Ooh, got anything else to say?
Well, it was about 70 degrees today, and in about an hour or two, it's going to be 30 degrees. So, you Chicagoans, bundle up.
God, this fucking state. It's February, and we had 75-degree weather today, and tomorrow it's going to be 30.
We need big closets in Chicago because you can't be unprepared for
4
any
different
season
closets.
at any time. You just never know.
No. I'd like to thank Ralph Wiley for throwing us some doinks for the show.
Yeah, we're going to finish that.
Oh, we're going to finish the hell out of that. Very good. Thank you. Thank you. Thank you for throwing us a doink for the show. We appreciate you. Check Ralph Wiley out at a lot of the farmers markets and events. You'll catch them there. You'll always catch them with their volcano, letting you taste the flavor. So thanks, Ralph Wiley. Appreciate you. Everybody out there in the world, peace be with you all. Hug somebody tomorrow, will you? Tell them you love them, because you never might see them again. So go out there and live your life to the fullest. As Paulie always says, smoke smart, puff puffing away.
Puff, puff, pass.
Check out our cannabis lifestyle brand online at 8decades.com. Our custom smokes and accessories are perfect for your coffee table, bedroom nightstand, or kitchen counter. They're designed for you to show them off. The Canna community is also loving our hemp and cotton blend t-shirts, sweatshirts, scarves, and hats, finished off with our 8 Decades logo. We've got some awesome long-lasting goods that will be your favorite for years to come. 8 Decades, because a 9th decade of cannabis prohibition isn't acceptable.